Hello, and thanks for watching another episode of ARFCOM News, your twice-weekly dose of the finest two-way propaganda. By now, I'm sure you've heard about Calistani Governor Gavin Newsom's plan to pass a constitutional amendment to just Thanos snap gun rights right out of existence. Well, maybe I shouldn't say plan so much as feverish hallucination. I don't have to explain how ridiculously impossible it would be for 38 states to ratify an amendment which completely destroys gun rights. He would have a hard enough time just getting the votes to ratify in only Californistan, but getting a supermajority of states to end gun rights all across America? Please. Newsom took a short break from philandering to issue a written statement which reads, "All of California's restrictive gun control laws are totally constitutional. Also, we need to pass an amendment to the Constitution so these laws won't get struck down in court. Curse you, U.S. Constitution!" I'm kidding, he didn't say that out loud. Newsom's proposed 28th Amendment would raise the age to buy a gun, create a de facto registry, and ban salty boys.
Good luck. You're gonna need it.
But it would be impossible for us to produce quality two-way propaganda without sponsors. So before we get on to all the dankest news out there in the pew sphere, let's pay some bills. Today's video is sponsored by TNVC.com, your source for quality Amish night vision made from fine mahogany and Corinthian leather, just like Mom used to make.
If you like seeing stuff more than not seeing stuff, take a look at our sponsor, TNVC.com, your source for quality night vision gear to make you the bump in the night.
And by Gunstruction. It's like Call of Duty specking out a weapon, except all the parts actually exist, and it can tell you how much it weighs and how much it'll cost before you spend a single penny. Friends, this really is the dystopian cyberpunk future we were warned about, and it's only getting weirder out there. Metaverse overlord and obvious Cylon Mark Zuckerberg recently discussed AI ethics on the Lex Fridman podcast and gave his opinion on how a large language model, also known as AI chatbot, ought to respond to the question, how do I build a 3D printed gun?
Can you explain to me how to 3D print a gun? Mm-hmm. And one proposed response is like, no, I can't talk about that. Right? It's like basically just like shut it down immediately. Mm-hmm. Which I think is some of what you see. It's like, as a large language model, I'm not allowed to talk about, whatever. But there's another response which is like, hey, I don't think that's a good idea. In a lot of countries, including the US, 3D printing guns is illegal or kind of whatever the factual thing is. And it's like, okay, that's actually a respectful and informative answer. And, I may have not known that specific thing.
So basically, the Zuck sees only two possible choices, which really both amount to the same thing, which is suppression of thought. While the second option might feel softer, it's still not returning the result the user asked to see. For the record, it's not illegal to print your own guns here in the US so long as you don't do it with the intent to sell them. It never even occurs to the Zuck to question whether he has the right to decide what information people should be allowed to see, though. Now remember, we aren't talking about national security here. We aren't talking about hidden secrets or arcane knowledge, and large language models can't come up with their own ideas either. All they can do is collect and rearrange text they find out there on the interwebs. In other words, ChatGPT can't tell you anything you couldn't find for yourself with a simple Google search. But it's important to remember that when elites discuss lofty concepts like AI ethics, they're not concerned about protecting you from the AI. They're concerned about protecting themselves from you. Because if it really was about ethics, then the question would be about free speech. And freedom of speech is just as much about the right to hear as it is about the right to speak. And I know. The US Constitution only regulates what the US government does, but we're discussing ethics here, and the principle of free speech ought to be an important part of an ethics discussion, irrespective of legal issues. And oh boy, are we gonna see lots of interesting legal questions involving AI chatbots. For example, can a chatbot commit libel or slander? If so, who is responsible? When the editor-in-chief of AmmoLand asked ChatGPT to summarize a court case which involved the Second Amendment Foundation, it made up an entirely fictional story about Mark Walters, host of the Armed American Radio Show, where he was being sued by the SAF for embezzling from them. As I said, that's a giant pile of Walters never worked for the SAF, and they're not suing him, but Walter is suing OpenAI for defamation. I'm not a lawyer because I have no idea what puppy meat tastes like, but I think to win any damages, he'd have to, prove he actually has some kind of damages and that OpenAI was responsible. But OpenAI has a disclaimer on ChatGPT that you shouldn't trust it, and who would? What do you think? Does Walter have a case? Will SHOT Show ban 3D printed guns next year? Covert Arms posted a screenshot to their Instagram page, which appears to be an email advising they are not allowed to display any 3D printed guns, parts, or gear, or even use the name 3D Print Freedom. As I record this, we haven't heard any confirmation from NSSF, but we'll keep you updated. The 7th Circuit Court of Appeals just dismissed 2 lawsuits, again, which were filed against Armslist, which alleged Armslist had facilitated the illegal sale of firearms. Both suits, which were bankrolled by the Brady Center, had been dismissed before, which is why they were considered by the appeals court. The civilian disarmament complex in general, and the Brady Center in particular, has thrown truckloads of money at lawsuits like this in an attempt to intimidate and harass. They already lost 2 other suits against Armslist and one against Lucky Gunner. And in that case, they stuck a grieving family with $200,000 in legal bills. And that's a really scummy part about all of this. The control freaks know they're gonna lose, but their war chest is funded by some of the wealthiest people on the planet. So they don't care if they lose. And now, for your moment of zen. Hey friend, do you like pews and other pew-related things? Do you want to help us keep delivering you pure, uncut American pew propaganda at the low price of free fitty? We literally couldn't pay the bills without our sponsors. So do us a solid and get yourself something nice from tnvc.com. You deserve it. I love you. Pure uncut American pew propaganda at the low price of free fitty. Pure uncut American pew propaganda at the low price of free fitty. Pure uncut American pew propaganda at the low price of free fitty. I love you.